Morning. Welcome to the Cure for the Common Game. Today we're going to talk about card advantage. Now there are books and websites and everything. It's one of the oldest theories, and it's not theory, it's proven. Card advantage is a thing. And I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability with some help from some cards that I've pulled out. First off, we all start the game, ideally, if we don't mulligan or anything, we start the game with 7 cards. Through normal game progression, we will draw a card a turn, so will our opponent. Now, if you draw more cards than your opponent, you have more options to win. This goes, ordinarily, you're going to have hopefully, I'm going to use the word parity. We've got 2 cards here. We got a Doomblade and a Pacifism. These are examples of 1-for-1. Now, Doomblade is, in my opinion, a better card than Pacifism, but there are some instances, everything is situational, first off. Every card in this game can be exceptional at times, and it can be the worst card you've ever drawn at times. It can be what they call a blank. Now, even Jump. FYI, Jump's a thing. If you're not playing Jump in blue, you should be. Jump's my card. It's a thing. Anyway, back to card advantage. These are examples of 1-for-1. I play one of my cards to destroy or make useless one of your cards. Now, that is if all of your cards just answer one of your opponent's cards, or vice versa. You have parity, and it all comes down to the quality of the cards. Now, we've got there's some other theories, resource trading, and you've got a quality versus quantity issue. Would you rather have, a handful of grizzly bears or a handful of Baneslayer angels? Obviously. But we're going to start with the 1-for-1s. Now, there are times in limited play, especially, by limited play, I mean draft, sealed, and probably standard, let's face it. But limited, sometimes you're going to need a 2-for-1. Sometimes that will give you a tempo. Another separate podcast. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, today we're talking about card advantage. And we're going to talk about we can't talk about it without just mana for cards. There are a lot of cards. Blue is especially famous for it. Green typically has draw cards based on something. Black normally has cards that say pay life to draw cards, or white is, draw a card here and there. But blue is typically your mana for cards. I'm showing Harmonize because Harmonize is one of the great colored breaks in this game. It's the only green mana for cards that exist, and, well, it shouldn't exist, but it's really good, so I play it in green. No reason not to. Anyway, the mana for cards. Obviously, Jace's ingenuity here. We're going to spend the mana, we're going to draw 3 cards. Now, it costs me a card. Everything I do costs me a card. You look at your hand, and it's going to cost you a card. When I play this, not only does it cost 5 mana, it costs a card out of my hand. Now, I'm getting 3 back, so I'm up 2 cards. So I'm plus 2. That's pretty good. However, it doesn't do anything. It's 5 mana, so I'm pretty much spending my entire turn just drawing these cards. I haven't advanced in the game. I haven't achieved any kind of tempo. Now, if I draw this and I have no cards in hand and it's late game and I have tons of mana, hey, I can probably play some of those cards. But there again, it's something to think about. We have cards that destroy multiple cards. Everybody knows about, Wrath of God and Damnation and all that, but I chose Decimate here because it's kind of cutesy. It is 1 card. It does take out 4. Now, you got to have 4 targets to decimate. Obviously, you got to have all 4 or else it just don't work. But when I can play 1 card to get rid of 4 of yours, pretty good. Kind of like it. advances me, and I have only expended one card where I have neutralized 4 of yours. Speaking of neutralizing cards, black has been famous for years for just straight up discard. Now here again, this is Mind Rot. When I play it, it's going to cost me a card, because the Mind Rot's in my hand. I have to spend 3 mana, I have to cast the Mind Rot. They're going to discard 2. So I'm really only up +1. But I haven't helped me out at all. Yes, I've reduced my opponent's options, but this cost me a card, so I'm down 1 card, they're down 2 cards, so they're down 1 more card than I am, so that's, hey, it's good for me. The discard mentality is the reason why cards like Mind Twist are so hated, because Mind Twist, it's absolutely nothing with a Mind Twist to make them discard their whole hand, and by the way, that's amazing. If they've just got 2, if it's late game and they've got 2 cards in hand, by the way, you never want to do this when they have less than 2. If they have 1 card, you're not gaining anything. Don't do it. We have tutor effects. Now, we all know your Enlightened Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Vampiric, Imperial Seal, all that jazz. But tutors are kind of unique in the card advantage theory, because I'm using my Demonic Tutor, or whatever my tutor is, to look through my library, pick out a card, and put it in my hand. So I spent some mana. It did replace itself, so it hasn't cost me a card, but it does increase your quality of cards. Now, in decks like Sisay here, repeatable tutor, wow. I think I run 63 or 64 legendary permanents in my Sisay deck. So Sisay is a every turn reusable tutor. I play her. Instantly when I cast her, I'm down 1 card. But if I get 1 activation out of her, I broke even, assuming I'm doing nothing else with her. Now she's a 2/2, so I'm probably not fighting with her. She's the general of the deck, so yeah, she's 2/2. The whole deck kind of works around legendary stuff. I'm probably not swinging with her, so I'm probably not getting a lot of combat use out of her. But once I use her that second time, my value starts going up, and every time you use her, you start getting more and more value. And then you use cards like Umbral Mantle to where you can do it twice a turn. Then you're starting abusing the value. That's where the magic's at. Find a card and find a way to abuse it. Not just use it, abuse it in your favor. We're going to talk about Banisher Priest and Artifact Mutation. Yeah, these are very different cards, and they're not competing for the same deck space, I know. But Banisher Priest, I believe, is more than just a 1-for-1. I play this card, it costs me a card. Immediately. It was a card I have drawn, it's a card I have cast, I put it onto the board. Now I'm exiling something of my opponent's. So that right there, I'm down a card, they're down a card. But I've also got this 2/2, which early game in a limited environment, that's good. Late game in a constructed, I'm gonna take out your combo piece or whatever. Artifact Mutation is also, it is substantial. Now, when I say card advantage, I don't care what the card is. I don't care if it's a token, whatever, because once it's a permanent on the board, I'm going to treat it like a card. Whether it's a 1/1 Sapperling, Thopter, Servo, whatever. So here, I destroy an artifact, and then I get, what is it, saps? Yeah, I get saps equal to its mana cost. Wow. So, if I'm, we're not mutating Soul Rings here, people, okay? We're mutating stuff like Sharooms and Breas and Michaels and Lattice. Get that Memnarch out of here. And we're getting a ton of Sapperlings out of it. I mean, this is just This is card advantage. I can use one of my cards, I destroy one of your cards, and I get 4 or 5 creatures out of the deal, 4 or 5 cards on the board. Wow. Why is everybody not running this in red and green decks? Oh, that's right, they are. Another thing with card along the token lines is we've got cards like Hive Stirrings. You've got White has done this forever. You get 2 little 1/1s of whatever the current flavor creature is at the moment. They've done soldiers or knights or whatever. Waylay was the first one. A little problem with Waylay they found out though. But Hive Stirrings does cost 1 more than most of them simply because they're slivers and this was a sliver deck. But either way, this is 1 card that I cast. I have drawn 1 card and I play it and I get 2 slivers out of it. So I have 2 1/1 vanilla creatures. Now the slivers are pretty good because obviously if you're playing this, you've got something to pump your slivers, i.e. other slivers. But you still got 2 cards out of the deal. Tokens matter, especially 1/1s tokens. You can win games on tokens. Just ask anybody who's ever lost to a Storm Herd. I have, many times. I've won with a Storm Herd. Seems like I lose to Storm Herd more than I win with it. Now, we've got, let's see, what do we cover? We'll cover another, to go along with your pyroclasms and things like that. Flame Tendrils is just one that says, hey, I'm going to play this. I'm going to optimize it when it's less threatening for me. Maybe I've chump blocked. Maybe I have no board presence whatsoever. And you've just thrown up all your little, in standard, we've got this little black deck that, it hurts you when it taps and hurts you when it equips and it hurts you when it dies and it hurts you when it does this. And sometimes you just need them all to go away. A 1 for 2 is good. 1 for 3 is better. 1 for 8 is just stupid phenomenal. But same with cards like, I don't advocate playing land destruction except for in decks that you play. But things like Armageddon or whatnot, it's personal preference, but it's 1 card to take out multiple. Now, if it doesn't matter, there's been many times when I've put Tsunami in my deck and I've played against a player playing blue and there not be a single island because you're playing EDH and you've got all these duels and they're uncommon duels. Now we got common duels that are not, and they don't run any islands. So that's just a chance you run. But it is a card advantage possibility here. Now, is it going to take out cards that matter? Yes. Nobody likes their lands gone. It's essential to have them in the game. It will give you that tempo. Treasure Mage, here's another Tutor plus dude. It's a Tutor on a stick. It's 2/2 body. We got the Trinket Mage. Pretty much the same thing. We're looking at the Ether Revolt spoilers. Kind of looks like there's a guy that gets a 3 mana cost artifact. That seems pretty good. But Holy Day, Fog, Darkness. Essentially, these do nothing for you. You've drawn a card. You've spent the mana to play the card. And you've gotten nowhere. There's no higher board presence. You haven't taken anything out. You just delay. Now, there are some versions of this. I'm not saying, there's some instances where I just need that 1 alpha swing and my opponent knows that and they swing all out. And Holy Day. And, excuse me. And then you can backswing at them and win. Those things happen. More in limited than in a constructed environment, though. I'm just going to call them all fogs. Cards like Fog, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about. Like the Constant Mist is a buyback fog. I run that in Azusa, and it's amazing because I have so many lands and so little creature presence. But anyway, Tragic Slip. Here we got another 1 for 1. But if something's already died, here's where you have to take into quality versus quantity. Yes, I can take this and I can destroy your script sprite with it. Or I can play my turn and maybe I've got a sack outlet or something and I can destroy your Emrakul. So I would a lot rather trade this for a Kozilek than I would, an Academy Rector or some. So, something to think about. We have cards that replace themselves. Cards that replace themselves, we call them cantrips. Most of the time they say, hey, do this, draw a card. They started off in Ice Age where you didn't get the card till the next upkeep, which I guess they found that was just, useless lines on cards. So most of them, you draw the card as soon as you cast it. Like here we have Repulse. Repulse is a boomerang. It bounces a creature, but you get to draw a card. So it costs one more. That's fine. It doesn't. Here again, you've gained tempo by bouncing their creature, and it really hasn't cost you a card. You still have access to just as many cards after you cast this as you did before this. Now, double blocking sometimes is necessary, especially if you don't want to die. Sometimes we double block to push an unfavorable block to our opponent, and there's a lot of times they'll play around us double blocking. Well, I'm not going to swing with my guy. Yeah, it's got death touch, but if he double blocks, I can only kill one, and then the other one, yeah. So let's talk about blanks in your hand. Now, the easiest way to explain what a blank card is, have you ever drawn a card? You're playing the game and you draw your card and you're like, wow, this card does nothing for me. Literally any other card would work. This card might as well be a blank magic card. It might as well have nothing printed on it. Now, a blank card is if you're going up against an all artifactor or black deck and you draw your terror. I know I'm picking some old school references here. You're drawing that terror and you're like, wow, destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature. All they have is black or artifact creatures. So it's a feel bad moment. That card is blank in your hand. It literally does nothing. And there are times when that's going to happen. But cards like Pegasus Refuge and their kind, to where you can discard cards for some ability. Now, here, you got to be careful what that ability is. I really wasn't fond of the Spell Shapers, where you just... the Spell Shapers, I liked them. I didn't like the legendary ones, because the legendary ones you had to discard 2 cards. But the regular cycle, you discarded a card. You pretty much traded a card for a card-like effect. Or you can trade your card. If it's late game and you've already got 37 mana, why do you need that 38th land? I know. But you can just cycle it away here. I say cycle, it's technically not cycle, but you can pitch it and you can get a dude out of it. Seems really good. Board wipes. We all run board wipes. Regardless of the format, we're looking for a board wipe to run. I don't care if you're playing Pauper, if you're playing Draft, Sealed, Standard. It hurts to say that word, but whatever you're playing, you're looking for a board wipe in your color. Now, I chose this one because obviously this is a white card that kills non-white creatures, which is about as good as it gets. And Garrick's Wake is pretty good. Plague Wind. The cards like that cost a ton of mana, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. But they're really good. Good for formats like EDH. You're never going to see them in standard play again, although I did play Plague Wind like mad. I played a Elf Biorhythm Plague Wind deck in, what was that, Ravnica Standard? Original Ravnica Standard? And, I played them early because we had so much mana. Anyway, back in the days when, cards were broken. Or, they're always broken, I guess. They were, they are, and they will be. Anyway, cards like this, if I can wipe the board, if I can wipe my opponent's board and keep all mine, your card advantage just goes way, way up. It is just, as I said, any card that's going to kill multiple cards, pretty good. It's going to give you a card advantage off of it. Now, I don't think I have a flashback card, but reusable cards. So we're going to go with buyback and flashback. Flashback, you cast the card once. Yes, you get that effect. It goes to your graveyard. Well, you have the ability later on, most of the time it costs more mana, to play that card again and get more value out of it. Like what is that, Army of the Damned, I think. You get 13 2/2 zombies. Yeah, it's a crazy amount of mana, but in big game EDH decks, you're going to have it. So you get your 13 zombies, and then you get, I got all these zombies. That's a great card. I don't care how much mana they costed it. I don't care. You're getting an ungodly amount of cards. Your card advantage out of that is insane. Now, they are 2/2 vanillas, whatever. I believe they even come to play tapped. Don't care. But I do have a buyback card. Now, I'm showing Capsize because Capsize is probably one of the most broken buyback cards there are. Forbid's up there, but Forbid generates negative card advantage for you. But more than likely, if you're playing Forbid, you have a way of drawing extra cards that your opponent does not have, and you're discarding those to cast your Forbid and buy it back. By the way, if you don't know, Forbid's a buyback counterspell. You got to discard 2 cards out of your hand to buy it back, which is really kind of sick. If you can draw a whole bunch of cards, maybe you're playing, I don't know what you're playing, but it's blue, 1 blue, instant, counter target spell, buyback, discard 2 cards, really broken. Capsize, though, is just mana. For 6 mana, you're going to cast it, bounce their thing, buy it back, it goes back to your hand. The only way to get around it is to get rid of the target. If you get rid of the target before the Capsize hits on top of the stack or what have you, you can sack it, bounce it, do whatever. That's about Capsize. Just at the end of turn, there's been so many times I have seen, fights or table flips or whatever because in a turn, Capsize. Oh, I got a tie spout tyrant too. Capsize, bounce, Capsize, bounce. It's bad. It's bad. And if you got something like Heuristic Study, to where it's anyway. Buyback, great card advantage. We have Greater Good. Greater Good. Now, when you play Greater Good onto the board, you've spent a card from your hand. You've probably spent your turn. That turn, you probably didn't do much else playing Disenchantment. So it's going to cost you a turn and a card. But it doesn't do anything itself. You sack a dude, draw cards equal to its power, then discard 3. Now, obviously, depending on how you built your deck, if you're playing some kind of dredge thing, you're going to sack 1/1 so you can fill up your graveyard. But most of the time, you're going to put this in a big creature deck, and if somebody decides to board wipe or, to murk your guy, you can, in response, sack it. I'm going to sack my Molimo. I'm going to draw some cards and pitch 3, whatever. I don't care. But you've got to, for a card advantage purposes, Greater Good, in order to get any use out of it whatsoever, you're going to be down 2 cards in 1 turn. You better get something good out of it. This needs to be the effect that you want. Repeatable card draw. Repeatable card draw. Howling Mine. Now, Howling Mine is not really good for card advantage. Howling Mine gives you and your opponent +1 card. However, your opponent gets the first card. Now, they tried to fix that with Dictated Krufix. So it has flash, so you can play it into the opponent's turn. That way you get the first card draw. That's fine. But it still doesn't put you above them. It's not putting more cards in your hand than in theirs. Now, there's a few cards that they've made that let you draw a card personally, but a lot of them have crazy drawbacks. But permanent card draw, creatures that have, when they deal damage, draw a card. I know the Shadow Mage Infiltrator is probably one of the greatest cards ever made. Thank you, John Finkel. I know when he won his first Pro Tour, he was holding up Ophidian, and he won it with Ophidian. He said it was his favorite card, but he won the Invitational. He gave us Shadow Mage Infiltrator, which is dumb. It is so good. But recursive card draw. Recursive card draw is good. It will always get you somewhere. Necropotents. Now, we got this. Yeah, I say Necropotents. It takes some of us back to the Black Summer in 96 when everybody had a Necro deck. But the reason why everybody had a Necro deck is... So the deck had 12 2-drop protection from white creatures. Wow. Most of them had first strike or could get first strike or were pumpable. It was crazy. But, all things aside, you played out your hand pretty quick. You played Necropotence. You filled your hand back up. We had Ivory Tower to gain to life. And it was crazy. So, Necropotence, good card advantage. Will cost you. You got to pay a life a card. Although that's nominal. You've probably built your deck to recoup some of that life. As I said, your Ivory Tower is amazing with it. I loved it. We rocked it in Standard forever. Back then it was called Type 2. But we've got some card advantage. As I said, I really can't say enough. You've got to be aware of things like resource trading and blanking cards, but tempo. But I stand here and tell you that card advantage, drawing cards, if I have more cards in my hand, I have more access to options to win the game. If I'm drawing more cards, if I'm destroying more of my opponent's cards, whatever. If I can get an advantage on cards, then I have more options to win. If I have more options, it's pretty good. Every card you play, land, enchantment, whatever, is going to cost you a card. Think about that when you evaluate your next card. It's going to cost you a card. It's going to cost you a draw. When you draw for your turn, are you going to want to draw that Plains? Are you going to want to draw that, Academy Rector or the Diabolic Tutor, whatever? It's going to cost you a card. Is it worth it? Can you make that card? Can you turn that card into more cards? Reusable cards, cantrips, buyback, flashback. Buyback and flashback were so good because they allow you to manipulate this resource. Card advantage. It's a real thing. I know there's no conceivable way that I have even scraped the surface of this topic. As I think of more, I'll probably do more later. I might do more on some resource trading or some tempo. Tempo's a real big thing. But card advantage, next time you draft, next time you play, think about it. What I do, I played Standard. We're all playing Standard right now. They're forcing us to play Standard because of this, Standard Showdown on Saturdays now. But we're playing Standard, and every game I finish, whether I win or lose, I will pick up my cards in hand, cards on the board, and my graveyard. These are all cards I played with. All cards that I interacted with. Now, if you've got some scribe mechanics, there may be some on the bottom, but if you scribe to the bottom, you didn't want to interact with them anyway. So I take all the cards I actually played with that game, and I count them. And most of the time, if you do that, most of the time, and a lot of times your opponent will see what you're doing. If the match is over with, if it's super competitive, maybe not, but most of the time, if I have played 23 cards and they have played 17, most of the time you've won that game. Think about it. When you get done with a game, regardless of what format it is, just pick up and count the cards you actually played with. The cards you drew, the cards you played, and the cards that are in your yard or exiled or what have you. Now, if you're playing commander, you've got your general and how many times you cast it. That's a real big card advantage, right there. If I can make them waste a kill spell on my general that I have the mana to play again, and it's not going to cost me tempo or anything because I don't have anything else to do with my turn. That's good. But that's me talking a little about card advantage. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe. Look at the rest of my videos. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see. We appreciate you. Y'all be good.